Andrew nervously adjusts his tie in front of the mirror, his eyes reflecting a mix of anxiety and pride. His dark skin contrasts sharply with the pristine white of his shirt. At 18, he is about to graduate from the prestigious Jefferson High School, one of the most renowned schools in New York City. "Are you ready, my son?" His mother's gentle voice echoes down the hallway. "Almost, Mom," Andrew replies, taking a deep breath as he puts the finishing touches on his carefully cut hair. He can't help but reflect on the journey so far. As one of the few black students at the school, every day has been a challenge. He remembers his first day 3 years ago when he walked through the imposing gates of the high school. That day, a student sarcastically told him, "You're in the wrong place. The public school is a few blocks down." Andrew clenches his fists at the memory, but quickly relaxes. He had proven his worth, exceeding not only the expectations of others, but also his own. "Andrew, we're going to be late," his mother calls again. "I'm coming," he replies, picking up his briefcase. As he descends, he finds his mother, Sarah, waiting in the living room, her eyes shining with pride. "Look at you," she says, adjusting the lapel of his jacket. "My boy, a Jefferson High graduate. Your father would be so proud." Andrew's chest tightens at the thought of his father, once again absent due to his diplomatic duties. "Did he send a message?" he asks hopefully. Sarah shakes her head. "You know his job, dear, but I'm sure he's thinking of you." Andrew nods, hiding his disappointment. He knew his father was a very busy man, but this was still his graduation. "Shall we go?" Sarah asks, picking up her bag. On the way to the school, Andrew gazes out the taxi window at the streets of New York. The city is always beautiful, but today it seems particularly magical. Every historic building, every elegant square seemed to celebrate his achievement. "Do you remember the day we got the acceptance letter?" Sarah asks, breaking his thoughts. Andrew smiles. "How could I forget? You screamed so loud the neighbors came to see what was happening." Sarah laughs. "I knew you could do it. You've always been determined since you were little." Andrew thinks of all the nights he spent studying, the weekends he sacrificed, the mockery he had to ignore. It was all worth it. As they approach the school, Andrew's heart races. The imposing gates of Jefferson High had never seemed as intimidating as at that moment. "I'm nervous, Mom," he admits in a whisper. Sarah takes his hand. "You have every reason to be proud, my son. You've earned your place here, no matter what anyone says." Andrew nods, feeling bolstered by his mother's words. He had faced suspicious looks, veiled comments, and sometimes open discrimination, but he had also made friends, impressed teachers, and, most importantly, proven to himself that he was capable. As he steps out of the taxi, Andrew sees groups of students and their parents entering the school. Some greet him with a nod, while others seem surprised by his presence. Andrew takes a deep breath, straightens his shoulders, and heads towards the entrance, ready to make history. "Ready to make history?" Sarah asks with a smile. Andrew smiles back, feeling a wave of confidence wash over him. "I always have been, Mom. I always have been." They walk through the gates of Jefferson High, ready to celebrate not just Andrew's graduation, but also the victory over all the obstacles he had overcome to get there. The sun sets over New York as Andrew arrives at the graduation venue, the beautifully decorated Jefferson High ballroom. Soft lights illuminate the ancient stone walls, and garlands of flowers adorn the columns. The buzz of lively conversations and laughter fills the air, mingling with the soft notes of classical music in the background. Andrew nervously adjusts his tie on his elegant suit, a unique piece lovingly crafted by his mother, Sarah. The navy blue fabric, carefully chosen to complement his complexion, subtly glows under the ballroom lights. Every stitch, every detail of the suit told a story of sacrifice and maternal love. "It's perfect, my son," Sarah declares, her eyes sparkling with pride. She herself looks stunning in her traditional African dress, its vibrant colors contrasting beautifully with the formal atmosphere of the ceremony. Andrew smiles at his mother, feeling a wave of gratitude. "Thank you, Mom, for everything." As they walk through the hall, Andrew can't help but notice the curious and sometimes surprised looks from the other guests. He was one of the few black faces in a sea of white, a constant reminder of his uniqueness in this environment. "Andrew, you made it," a familiar voice calls out. It was Matthew, one of the few true friends Andrew had made during his years at Jefferson High. "Matthew, of course I made it," Andrew replies, hugging his friend. "I wouldn't miss this for anything." Matthew respectfully greets Sarah before turning to Andrew. "Your father," he begins hesitantly. Andrew shakes his head, a flicker of disappointment crossing his face. "Work as usual, you know how it is." Matthew nods understandingly. Andrew's father, a respected diplomat, was often absent due to the demands of his career. His absence on this important evening was painful, but unfortunately familiar. Matthew smiles, trying to lift his friend's spirits. "By the way, that suit is spectacular." Andrew smiles, pride momentarily replacing the disappointment. "My mom made it." Sarah blushes at the compliment. "It's the least I could do for my brilliant son," she says, affectionately adjusting Andrew's suit lapel. As the evening progresses, Andrew experiences a complex mix of emotions. There was pride in his accomplishments, joy in sharing this moment with his mother, but also a twinge of heartache over his father's absence, and an acute awareness of his difference within a predominantly white and privileged crowd. As he talks with classmates and their parents, Andrew can't help but notice the furtive glances and occasional whispers. Some seemed genuinely impressed by his achievements, while others barely concealed their surprise or disdain. "It's incredible what you've done," comments a classmate's mother, her tone oscillating between admiration and condescension. "It must have been quite a challenge for someone with your background." Andrew smiles politely, years of practice helping him maintain his composure. "Jefferson High offers incredible opportunities to all its students," he responds diplomatically. "I just tried to make the most of those opportunities." Sarah, sensing her son's discomfort, gently steers him away from the conversation. "You handle these situations much better than I do," she murmurs. "I'm so proud of you, Andrew. Not just for your grades, but for who you become." Andrew squeezes his mother's hand, grateful for her comforting presence. "Thank you, Mom. I wouldn't be here without you." As he prepares for the ceremony, Andrew looks around. He sees entire families gathered, parents proudly hugging their children, siblings taking photos together. For a moment, he feels a sense of envy and loneliness. But then he looks at his mother, sees the love and pride in her eyes, and knows he is not alone. He had come so far against all odds, and tonight was a celebration of that journey. With a deep breath, Andrew straightens his shoulders and prepares for the moment ahead. The ceremony is about to begin, and with it, the official recognition of all he had achieved. The Jefferson High School auditorium buzzes with anticipation as the principal takes the stage. The lights dim, focusing on the central podium, and a respectful silence falls over the audience. "Welcome to the graduation ceremony for the class of 2024, the principal announces, his deep voice resonating in the hall. "Today, we celebrate the exceptional achievements of our students." Andrew's heart races. He sits in the front row next to his mother, Sarah, who holds his hand firmly. As names are called one by one, graduates walk across the stage, receive their diplomas, and shake hands with the principal amid enthusiastic applause from family and friends. "Andrew Davis," the principal calls out, his voice slightly hesitant. Andrew stands, adjusting the suit his mother made for him. He feels the eyes of the entire room on him as he walks toward the stage. That's when it all began. At first, it was just muffled whispers, almost inaudible. But as Andrew approached the stage, the whispers turned into more audible murmurs and then unmistakably into stifled laughter. "How did he get in here?" Andrew hears someone mutter. "It must be some sort of quota." Another replies with barely disguised disdain. Andrew keeps his head high, focusing on the steps ahead. He feels the heat rising in his neck, but refuses to show that he has heard the comments. Reaching the top of the platform, Andrew turns to face the audience. For a moment, he sees his mother's face, full of pride and love, and it gives him strength. The principal extends his hand, holding Andrew's diploma. But as Andrew steps forward to take it, he notices a visible hesitation. The principal looks uncomfortable, avoiding direct eye contact with Andrew. The moment stretches, creating an awkward silence that seems to last an eternity. The audience, who moments earlier had been whispering and laughing, is now completely silent, watching the scene unfold. Determined not to let this moment define him, Andrew steps forward and extends his hand. "Thank you, Mr. Principal," he says in a firm, clear voice. The principal, seeming to snap out of his trance, finally shakes Andrew's hand and hands him his diploma. "Congratulations, Mr. Davis," he murmurs, barely audible. As Andrew turns to leave the stage, he hears sparse applause, mostly from Sarah and a few classmates like Matthew, who stand to cheer enthusiastically. The walk back to his seat feels endless. Andrew feels the stares, some pitying, some disdainful, a few admiring. He keeps his chin up, refusing to show any sign of weakness. When he reaches his seat, Sarah hugs him tightly. "I am so proud of you, my son," she whispers in his ear. "You are stronger than all of them combined." Andrew nods, unable to speak due to the lump in his throat. He holds tightly to his diploma, a tangible proof of his achievement and a symbol of everything he had overcome to get there. As the ceremony continues, Andrew tries to focus on the keynote speaker's words about the bright future awaiting the graduates, but his mind keeps returning to the moment on stage, to the principal's hesitation, the whispers, and the laughter. He knew that this moment was just a reflection of the battles that lay ahead. The diploma he held in his hands was more than academic recognition. It was a reminder of his resilience, his ability to overcome adversity. When the ceremony ends and the graduates are invited to toss their caps in the air in celebration, Andrew stands with the others. But as he throws his cap, he makes a silent promise to himself to continue fighting, to stand out, and to prove his worth no matter the obstacles he would face. Catching his cap as it falls back into his hands, Andrew feels his determination strengthen. The night was not over, and he knew more challenges awaited him. But now, with his diploma in hand and his mother's love by his side, he felt ready to face them. After the ceremony, the graduates and their families disperse in the hall to take photos and chat. Andrew, still proudly holding his diploma, heads with his mother to a quieter corner of the room. "Are you okay, my son?" Sarah asks, her voice full of concern. Andrew forces a smile. "I am, Mom. Don't worry." But the truth is, he is not okay. The whispered words and exchanged looks during the ceremony still resonate in his mind. Watching his classmates celebrate with their families, Andrew can't help but feel apart from the crowd. Just then, he hears a familiar voice behind him. "Davis!" It's Anthony, one of the most privileged students in the class, accompanied by a group of friends. "Congratulations on getting your diploma. That must have been tough." Anthony's tone is falsely friendly, but Andrew can sense the venom behind the words. "Thanks, Anthony," Andrew replies, staying calm. "It was a challenge for all of us, wasn't it?" Anthony laughs coldly. Sure. But some of us truly belong here, you know." Anthony's friends laugh, exchanging knowing looks. What do you mean? Andrew asks, feeling his anger rising. Oh, come on, Davis. Another boy in the group, Lucas, says. We all know how you got in here. There must be some sort of special help, right? Andrew clenches his fists, struggling to stay calm. I got here the same way you did, through hard work and dedication. Hard work? Anthony mocks. Is that what they call quotas now? The group laughs louder this time, attracting curious looks from others around them. Sarah, who had stepped away to get drinks, returns at that moment. Sensing the tension, she places a protective hand on Andrew's shoulder. Is everything all right here? Anthony smiles, a false expression of friendliness on his face. Of course, ma'am. We were just congratulating your son on his unexpected success. Andrew feels his mother stiffen beside him, understanding the veiled insult. But before she can respond, another voice joins the conversation. Andrew, there you are. It's Matthew, his friend, accompanied by his parents. We've been looking for you. We want to take some pictures together. Anthony's group steps back, their mocking smiles fading at Matthew's intervention. Sure, Matthew, Andrew says, grateful for the interruption. Let's go! As they walk away, Andrew hears Anthony mutter to his friends. Look, even Matthew pities him. It's pathetic. Andrew feels a wave of humiliation and anger surge through him. He wants to turn back, confront Anthony and his group, and show them he is not inferior. But he knows it would only make things worse, giving them more ammunition for their prejudices. Don't listen to them, Andrew, Matthew says softly. They're just jealous. You're twice the student any of them will ever be. Andrew nods, grateful for his friend's support. But Anthony's and his friend's words continue to echo in his mind. As he poses for photos with Matthew and his family, Andrew can't help but notice the looks he receives from other groups in the room. Some express curiosity, others barely disguise disdain, and still others pity, which in a way hurts even more. He sees teachers discussing in a corner, glancing in his direction, and quickly looking away when they realize he is noticed. He sees parents whispering among themselves, their eyes flicking from him to Sarah and back. The celebration, which should have been the culmination of years of hard work and dedication, has turned into a painful reminder of all he still has to fight to be truly accepted and respected. As the night wears on, Andrew feels increasingly isolated. Groups form and dissolve around him, but few approach him or his mother. The sense of not belonging, which he had fought so hard against during his years at Jefferson High, feels stronger than ever. But Andrew refuses to let them see how much their words and actions affect him. With his chin up and shoulders straight, he continues to move through the room, determined not to let them completely ruin his graduation night. As the evening progresses, the atmosphere in Jefferson High's ballroom becomes increasingly oppressive for Andrew. What was supposed to be a celebration of his achievements has turned into a painful exercise in endurance. The joyful music and lively conversation starkly contrast with the isolation Andrew feels. Andrew, my dear, Sarah says softly, noticing her son's tense expression. Maybe we should leave. We've already celebrated your graduation. Andrew shakes his head, determined. No, Mom. I'm not going to let them drive me out. This is my night too. At that moment, a group of students approaches to take a group photo. Seeing an opportunity to fit in, Andrew steps forward. Can I join you for the photo? He asks, trying to sound casual. The group exchanges awkward glances. A girl, Chloe, whom Andrew recognizes from his literature classes, forces a smile. Oh, Andrew, it's just that this is a photo for our study group. You understand, right? Andrew knew there was no study group. It was just an excuse to exclude him. He nods stiffly and steps away, feeling the heat of humiliation rising to his neck. As he walks away, he can hear the whispers behind him. I'm glad he got it. Imagine if he were in the class photo. It's bad enough having to share a classroom with him. Andrew clenches his fists, fighting the urge to turn around and confront them. He knew it would only make things worse, giving them more reasons to justify their prejudices. In another corner of the room, Andrew notices a group of parents animatedly discussing something. As he approaches to get a drink, the conversation abruptly stops. The looks he receives range from awkward to barely disguised disdain. "Well, young man," one of the parents says, trying to break the uncomfortable silence. "What are your plans for the future?" Andrew takes a deep breath, preparing to answer, but before he can speak, another father interjects. "Oh, John, don't be naive. We all know what the future holds for people like him." The remark is followed by muffled laughter and knowing glances among the parents. Andrew feels as if he's been punched in the stomach. He mutters an excuse and quickly walks away without touching his drink, seeking refuge. Andrew heads to a quieter corner of the room. That's when he notices a group of his teachers speaking in hushed tones. As he gets closer, he catches snippets of their conversation. "Did he really earn the highest grade? Maybe we should review our admission criteria. It's complicated, you know. We have to think about the school's reputation." Andrew feels his heart sink. Even his teachers, people he respected and admired, were questioning his presence and achievements. Sarah, sensing her son's distress, approaches him. "Andrew, my love, you don't have to endure this. Let's go home." Andrew looks at his mother, seeing the worry and love in her eyes. He wanted to be strong, to prove he belonged just like any other student, but the reality of the situation was becoming unbearable. "Maybe you're right, Mom," he finally says, his voice low and defeated. As they prepare to leave, Andrew takes one last look around the hall. He sees his classmates celebrating, taking photos, hugging their parents and teachers. It is a scene of joy and fulfillment from which he feels completely excluded. The discrimination he had faced during his years at Jefferson High had reached its peak tonight. What should have been the highlight of his academic journey had turned into a painful reminder of the extent of the changes needed in the world. With a heavy sigh, Andrew picks up his diploma and turns towards the exit. He knew that this night would be etched in his memory not as a celebration, but as a reminder of the battles he would still have to fight in the future. As Andrew and Sarah prepare to leave the ballroom, a sudden murmur sweeps through the room. Heads turn towards the entrance, and a gradual silence falls over the crowd. Curious about the sudden change in atmosphere, Andrew turns to see what is causing the stir. His heart nearly stops when he sees the imposing figure entering the room. A tall, elegant black man dressed in an impeccable suit, carrying a diplomatic briefcase, confidently strides into the room. His steps are firm and determined, and his gaze sweeps across the room with a mix of authority and curiosity. "Dad?" Andrew whispers, hardly believing his eyes. Sarah lets out a small gasp of surprise. "David?" she murmurs, a smile spreading across her lips. David Davis, Andrew's father, has arrived. His presence and demeanor are unmistakable, and it seems he has come straight from an important meeting, judging by his formal attire and the briefcase he carries. The silence in the room is palpable. The same students and parents who had been whispering and laughing at Andrew's expense now look on in astonishment at the arrival of this distinguished and mysterious man. David walks directly towards Andrew and Sarah, ignoring the stares and whispers around him. His face lights up with a warm smile as he sees his son. "Andrew, my son," he says, his deep, melodic voice resonating in the now silent room. "I apologize for being late. The flight from Washington was delayed, but I couldn't miss your graduation for anything." Andrew, still in shock, is embraced by his father. "Dad, I didn't know you were coming," he stammers, feeling a surge of emotion. David steps back slightly, holding Andrew by the shoulders and looking him in the eye. "Miss this moment? Never. I am incredibly proud of you, Andrew. Sarah joins the embrace, tears of joy shining in her eyes. What a wonderful surprise, David, she says softly. The principal, noticing the arrival of the new guest, approaches hesitantly. Good evening, sir. How can I help you? David turns to the principal and extends his hand. I am David Davis, Andrew's father. I apologize for being late. I was on a diplomatic mission in Washington. The principal looks confused for a moment, then his eyes widen in recognition. Davis, you're not. David smiles politely. Yes, I am the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. Andrew has spoken highly of this institution. A murmur of astonishment ripples through the room. The same principal who had hesitated to shake Andrew's hand hours earlier now eagerly shakes David's hand. Ambassador Davis, what an honor to have you here. We didn't imagine. It's such a pleasure to have you. The principal stammers, visibly flustered. David maintains his dignified demeanor, but scans the room, noting the shocked looks and guilty expressions of many present. I imagine not, he says, his tone carrying a deeper meaning. Sometimes appearances can be deceiving, can't they? The principal swallows nervously. Of course. Why don't you come with me? I'd like to show you some of Andrew's achievements during his time here. As David is led through the hall, Andrew watches with a mix of pride and irony at the drastic change in people's attitudes. The same people who had avoided him moments earlier now crowded around him, eager to be introduced to the ambassador and his son. Teachers who had doubted his abilities now praised his performance. Classmates who had excluded him tried to take photos with him. Parents who had made derogatory remarks now attempted to strike up friendly conversations. The hypocrisy of the situation is not lost on Andrew. He exchanges a meaningful look with his mother, who squeezes his hand in understanding and support. The evening, which had begun as a humiliating ordeal, had turned into a powerful lesson on prejudice and judgment. Walking beside his father, Andrew feels a new wave of confidence wash over him. He knows that the challenges are not over, but he now has irrefutable proof of his worth and his place in the world. The Jefferson High Ballroom, once a minefield of furtive glances and derogatory remarks, now buzzed with a completely different energy. The presence of Ambassador David Davis had transformed the dynamics of the evening. Ambassador Davis, the principal says, his tone overly cordial. I must say, Andrew has been an exemplary student. His dedication and intelligence are truly remarkable. David nods politely, but his gaze is penetrating. Interesting. Not long ago, it seemed that Andrew's presence here was perceived quite differently. The principal pales visibly. Oh, no. There must be some misunderstanding. We have always valued diversity at our institution. Andrew can't help but smile ironically. The hypocrisy is palpable. At that moment, Anthony, the same student who had made derogatory remarks earlier, approaches with a forced smile. Andrew, I didn't know your dad was such an important person. We should get a photo together for the yearbook. Before Andrew can respond, David intervenes gently. Young man, I believe my son has had plenty of opportunities to be photographed tonight, don't you think? Anthony steps back, understanding the underlying message. Sarah, who had been quietly observing, finally speaks. It's amazing how quickly perceptions can change, isn't it? Her voice, though soft, carries a weight that causes many in the room to look away in shame. As the evening progresses, Andrew notices a subtle but significant shift. Some of his classmates, particularly Matthew and others who had always treated him with respect, approach with genuine interest, asking about his father's work and expressing admiration for Andrew's ability to handle so much pressure over the years. Andrew, Matthew says during a quiet moment, I'm sorry, I didn't realize sooner what you were going through. You are truly incredible. Andrew smiles at his friend, feeling a surge of gratitude. Thank you, Matthew. Your friendship has always meant a lot to me. Meanwhile, David circulates through the room, engaging in diplomatic conversations, but always keeping a protective eye on Andrew. At one point, he takes Andrew aside. My son, he says calmly, I am incredibly proud of you. Not just for your academic achievements, but for the strength of character you have shown tonight. Andrew feels tears welling up in his eyes. Thank you, Dad. Your arrival changed everything. David shakes his head. No, Andrew. I merely uncovered what was already there. The real change will come from people like you who face prejudice with dignity and excellence. As the night draws to a close, Andrew finds himself surrounded by a small group of classmates and teachers who genuinely want to know him better. The conversation naturally flows to topics ranging from international politics to hopes and dreams for the future. The principal, still visibly nervous, approaches one last time. Ambassador Davis, Andrew, on behalf of Jefferson High, I want to extend our most sincere thanks for your presence tonight. We hope this experience has been enlightening for all of us. David responds with a diplomatic smile. It certainly has been, Principal. I am sure we have all learned valuable lessons tonight. As the Davis family prepares to leave, Andrew takes one last look around the hall. The contrast between the beginning and end of the evening is striking. He knows that the fight against prejudice is far from over, but tonight has been an important victory. Come, my son, Sarah says softly. We have much to celebrate as a family. Andrew leaves Jefferson High feeling stronger and more determined than ever. As he walks out of the school, he knows he is not only leaving behind his academic life, but also closing an important chapter of his personal journey. The future, with all its challenges and opportunities, awaits, and Andrew Davis is ready to face it.